Welcome, everybody.
How you doing, Pablo?
I'm doing great.
I'm
Summer's
so happy
going
to be
well.
here.
How's your summer going?
Just ticking on by.
It's going quick. Hey, so today, what are we talking about?
Well, this is a cool episode. Well, you be the judge. Actually, give
It's
us
cool.
feedback. Give us feedback on iTunes. We invite you to go leave us a 5-star rating and a review. So if you think it's cool, which we do,
Yes.
give us your feedback. And if you have suggestions and questions, we'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely.
But the topic today is a presentation that Pablo and I delivered during the last school year, the dilemma of systematizing personalized learning. We'll let that sink in.
Yeah, I'm into it.
The
I'm totally
the
into
dilemma
it.
of systematizing personalized learning. So we're going to go through, we'll put a link to the slide deck that we use for the presentation, but we just wanted to share a little bit of where our hearts and our heads were this last school year with the work we're doing. So yeah, you ready to dive in?
I'm ready to go. I think we're going to start off with a little clip.
Yeah.
So actually, before we go there, give us, for context, give us a little bit of background about what we're doing in the Fullerton School District specifically, and what you're actually kind of carrying that flag for. You're leading the charge, so let us know what's going on there.
So Fullerton has had one-to-one iPads. They called the Visible Innovation Program, VIP, right? And so the VIP program is grades 5 through 8. Kids are allowed to take their devices home, but we have largely done one-to-one iPads all the way like K through 8. And we're actually working on getting those devices home in the lower grades as well. So in addition to that, the district has been a technology leader and a gamification of learning leader with the You Personalize program, and providing gamified units of study is a good way to think about it, I think, with like leaderboards and experience points and all these things where you can rank up and achieve mastery. Yeah,
a lot of good stuff going on. We've been doing this for about 4.5 years now, and there's been a lot of iterations throughout the years, which is a good thing, and we've learned a lot. We just actually came back from a retreat that kind of was a little bit different than years past, but it really got the leaders in the school district who are actually doing some personalized learning at a high level. And we were just picking out the best of the best and the things that don't work. And you ran a great workshop for that. And I think it was a really good time, well spent for everybody.
Yeah, it was good. And I think the idea is we're moving towards personalized learning, and we want to make those options available for our students and also for our teachers. And different teachers approach the curriculum and teaching and their students in different ways. And so one of the things we're working on is just making more choices available for teachers so they're more comfortable going in these innovative directions.
And just as a point of clarity, hopefully this clarifies things. You might hear out there in education, personalized learning versus individualized learning versus differentiated learning. And personalized learning really encompasses individualized and differentiated learning, if you will. But personalized, if you really just want a separator, personalized has the student as the focus and they drive the learning. And the other two, the teacher is still the advocate or the leader of the learning, maybe individually or in groups as differentiated learning.
I think that's clear. I think that's like very much needed. I think personalized learning, in my experience in other districts, there was more of a kind of approach to try to devise a system that you still sort of funneled kids into, and they had choices and kind of learning paths, but everybody's sort of picking from the same menu. That's why we did this presentation. It's hard to personalize learning in a systematic way.
It is, and you have to give it a chance. You have to be willing to work differently, and I think that's where tradition kind of gets in the way of our thought process in terms of how personalized learning can work for our students.
So in terms of, you want to play that clip? Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
Have it ready to go? I think it's right there on your...
I got it.
Look at you.
The gamification of education. Students are really showing this increased engagement and this increased motivation to reach higher levels of learning, higher levels of understanding, and that's all coming from within themselves.
It makes me want to keep going. I'll be up at night. I just need to get this extra 15 XP points. It's extra 20. I just need to do this. I just have to write a summary for this or make this paragraph.
So that's a clip from Fullerton School District at Orangethorpe Elementary. Students talking about the gamification of learning. And this video is probably 2 or 3 years old at this point.
Yeah, if not 4 years old, because that was Kelsey speaking, and she was, I believe, a fifth grader now. And she just left our school district because we are a K-8. She just promoted to high school. So good for Kelsey.
Yeah. So that's talking about the kind of student motivation in place because of gamification and having experience points in terms of leading students through a quest-based learning approach. And so one of the things that we kind of are, I think, reaping the benefit of is a shift in language in terms of assessments. Like we use common formative assessments in our personalized learning programs. And so all the teachers, all the grade levels, as they're going through this, they get these assessment results, and then they can put students into a reteach cycle or a respawn, as we like to call it, along with the gamification language. Like in a video game, if you die, you respawn or you come back to life. But we shifted towards saying about a student, I failed the assessment or I passed, to we met or did not meet. So met or not yet is kind of the new language that we've been able to introduce and sustain largely throughout the district, where instead of talking about, these students failed, we just say they have not yet met. And so that it actually lends itself, even at the teacher level, to more of a growth mindset about.
I was just going to say it aligns with the growth mindset. That was my interjection, but absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And so all of this, like, where does it come from? I just talked a little bit about, tradition and why are schools the way they are. Essentially, there was a production of workers for factories, and we created a school system essentially that has classrooms with desks and rows, and we all know that. And we're trying. I know I see it out there in classrooms around the country and in our district when we visit other sites that teachers are doing a great job of changing that as far as desks and rows. So teachers aren't having kids in desks and rows, but that top-down management, that's essentially what we had. Like that's what you have the superintendent down to the teachers essentially.
Kind of like an assembly line. You have the factory manager, and then you have the assembly line workers. And not to put too fine a point on it, but it's almost like the students are the products we're assembling, just shoving them down the assembly line. And I know this has to resonate with teachers in terms of feeling rushed like an assembly line, feeling like, I don't have time to invest in getting to know my students the way I want to. But that top-down management, it was largely, I think, like a model based on efficiency. Like now that we're not in villages and I'm not doing my apprenticeship with my dad who's a blacksmith to learn that trade, now that I'm going into the school to learn, well, the cheapest, easiest way is line them up in rows.
Line them up in rows. Give them a system of grading that says, hey, you're either you're really just a number. You're a grade, a letter grade. You're a percentage, and which is horrible. And I see students in my community because I live in the community that I work in, and I see them all the time, and I ask how they're doing, and I inevitably get the old I'm getting a B and such and such. Right.
Right.
That's really not necessarily what I was asking, but maybe I should ask the question better. Maybe I need to phrase the question a little better. But I was just like, how are you doing personally? And essentially, it saddens me a little bit to have those conversations. I mean, of course we get into more details, but if that's the first thing that they're thinking about, then that sends a message.
Yeah.
It sends a strong message.
Yeah, I think they're tuned in to the fact that schools are about grades and about that kind of performance. So when you see them years later, they want to let you know, hey, I'm doing okay, I have a B, but the fact that they reached out to their grade is the marker of how they're doing versus like, hey, Mr. Diaz, I'm really happy right now, and talking about some of the joy of life or some of the surprises, or even, God forbid, hey, I just learned this,
Right.
Yeah, talking about what they're learning.
Yeah.
So we're trying to enable more of a shift so our students as well as our teachers are thinking more about where they are on this journey, and the journey is unique to them, and it's about them. It's not about the system.
And so what's that value proposition then?
Yeah. So the idea, the value proposition is that if we personalize learning experiences for students, or it's probably safe to say for as many students as we can, as much of the time as we can, then we're going to see greater academic achievement and greater student agency.
And how are we going to do that? We're going to do that through passion.
Yeah.
That's just, that is something we are definitely at the forefront, I think, in our school district and maybe in the country. I don't know completely, but we certainly are. We have a heavy dose of trying to allow kids to follow their interests, follow their passions.
Yeah.
And passion can be emptyless too. Like I can say, I just love basketball, and then okay, what else do you love about that?
Yeah, tell me about
the idea is to give kids time, kind of like that 20% time, or and there's some other names out there for it, but
Genius Hour.
There you go. So, but it seems like it's still just a pocket, and we need to make it part of the whole school day, just like reading and writing. The mathematics, passion-driven, interest-driven. Work and research should be done by students, and play within should be within there as well.
Yeah, and we didn't really talk about this so much in the presentation, but I think the school district, in terms of our responsibility as teaching and learning and preparing students for the future, we have a responsibility to families to know how we're preparing students for the future. And the future is something we don't know yet, and maybe we can't predict it, but it's our industry. And students' parents have gone through probably mostly a traditional model. So we have to realize I would say it's more our responsibility, because you could look and say, well, it's up to the parents to give them Boy Scouts experiences or, trips across the country, and that's where they're going to discover their passion or have these extra experiences. But I would say it's a shame on us if we say that's not in our wheelhouse. Our wheelhouse is just the schoolhouse,
right,
and just sitting in rows with textbooks. We have to really be thinking about like what's coming up around the bend, and how are we preparing students to be flexible enough and savvy enough in terms of their critical thinking skills and communication skills and creativity, like all those C's that we talk about. We have to take that seriously. Okay, I just got my soapbox a little bit.
So one of our personalized learning teachers in our district had a handful of students who were interested in music.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough to kind of be part of two of the interviews that they did. One they did through Skype, and then one they did live. And I know you can probably help me out with some of these names, but I'm not quite the musician, but it was great though. One of the musicians was the lead guitarist for Paul McCartney, Sir Paul McCartney, which was awesome to see. And he was great with the students, and he answered all their questions, and he even had questions for them. And so it was very authentic. That's the point, is they sought it out, or actually the teacher helped them find this, because she has some connections in the music industry. But they wrote all the questions, and it was just spectacular to see them engage. part 2 of that was a few weeks later. They were able to visit with 3 musicians live. They came to the school and they sat them down in kind of interview style. It was kind of funny because it was a small little couch that would fit like 3 students, but these were big guys, especially one of the guys. I think he's a drummer. I think there was 2 drummers.
Yeah. And the other was like keyboard, saxophone.
And you can name them probably better than I. At least one or two of them.
Well, I'll tell you the band. So keyboard or saxophonist for Green Day.
Yep.
And then drummer for Lit, which is kind of an alternative punk band. And then I want to say the other one was Zebrahead.
I don't. I want to help.
That was I believe that was the other drummer.
It was just so cool to watch them engage with these artists and allowing them to tell the students really what it's like to be out there, to be, if you have a love for something, just go do it.
Yeah.
It's like, go do it, man.
Yeah.
But it wasn't about the money, because some of them talk like, it's a hard life. It's a hard life. But it's what they love to do.
And it was really cool to have people who are, X number of years out of school, successful by all standards as musicians, talking to these young aspiring musicians, like in a really kind of intimate setting where those students had access to their wisdom and their experiences. It was really cool, and that's part of what we embrace in terms of going down this road as passion fueling our personalized learning approaches, is access to people in the field that you think you're passionate about. Because unless you get that real world feedback and you start building those networks and connections, I mean, your passion's only going to go so far. You actually need to network and connect with people to have that passion like build a bridge to your future.
And absolutely. And how do you find out whether you have a passion or what is your passion, or how do you dive into it? What's that?
I'm glad you asked.
Yeah. Oh,
we have a tool.
Oh, what's the tool, sir?
It's Thrively. Tell us about Thrively.
Yeah, so Thrively is a strength-based assessment program, and I think it's initially free to use in terms of anybody can download it, and so get out there. It's Thrively, Thrively.com, probably Thrively.com. And you can fill out a strength-based assessment, and it's a survey, and it basically drills down and gives you like 5 of your top strengths or what have you. And then what it allows you to do is create a playlist, or kind of suggest different videos to watch within your area of strength. And if you said, you started to say you were a firefighter or a policeman, the kind of traditional thing, it'll start popping up videos and populating different avenues by which you can dive into a variety of different assignments or activities and things of that nature.
You're getting me excited. So like we used to talk in the other districts I was in about like having this personalized learning dashboard where, like, if you miss, this question on the assessment, it'll give you a video to watch about decimals or something like that. And I hope you hear the tone in my voice. Like, it's not the same. We were claiming it's the same as having your own, Amazon login, and you recently bought tennis balls. Do you want to buy this tennis racket? It's not the same. Like, I'm not going to miss the question on commas and then say, I would love to watch a video on commas. So what's interesting about this is it's feeding students information about their passion and their interests, which they are interested in. So they're likely to use it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're building the personalized learning platform or system around student passions, because students are going to start consuming that content and become more self-aware and stronger in terms of expressing themselves around their areas of interest. I mean, it was really cool to be around kids, and they were kind of like, I'm interested in this. And it was almost like new information that they were able to articulate. I have this interest. Like one of the kids at one of our schools, cinematography, vlogging. He looked up to Casey Neistat, and he had his iPad all year, but he wasn't going outside and filming these, like...
He was not.
Yeah, so he was out there, and he showed me, like, panning and zooming and all the stuff he's doing with his iPad. I'm like, this is awesome.
So far more than just being engaging, this is empowering.
Yeah.
And that is a key differentiator to other things that we might do in the class that just engage kids.
Right.
We are empowering the students. And Gosh, I lost my train of thought.
Well, I'll just hop in right there.
But no, that's good.
I think that's a good movement that's a good way of describing how we are moving from gamification, which we largely did to engage.
Yes.
That was our motive, is like, how do you engage kids and make the classroom more fun for them and more motivating? So gamification serves that purpose. And then after several years, you're iterating all the time, and we're like, but we're not yet achieving that empowerment phase that we want. Like, largely the district's operating this platform, students are participating, but the ownership's not there. So we started to think, and we have student focus groups and all this, and the iterations we're doing are based on student voice and teacher feedback also. But yeah, then you start to think about it, like, how do you empower students? Well, you have to tap into who they are, and then work from there. I believe that's part of that.
That's totally true. And as part of that, I figured out what I wanted to say is that you still have to deliver to the masses, even if we're not trying to systematize, but you need to have some type of system. And I think we've had this discussion about, like, the word's still there. But the thing is, we have another initiative called Dream Big that next year, at least fifth grade through eighth will all take Thrively as, as a barometer, right? As a measure. And so every student will have a dashboard, will have at least a place to go, regardless of whether the teacher is in or out. They will at least have a place to go to kind of follow their interest in kind of being a playground of such things. So that's really exciting. So moving further, you talked a little bit about, hey, how do you deliver this? So last year we delivered a really big and exciting conference for sixth graders. It was just for sixth graders, by sixth graders, for sixth graders.
Yeah.
Want to talk a little bit more about it?
Yeah. So that conference was, at a hotel facility, like ballroom conference style, where students, we opened up the night before. I'm going to
interrupt.
Yeah, go for it.
Leading up to that.
Yeah.
What were some of the things we did to support it? Because that was super powerful. Like Coach B. You got to tell them about Coach B, maybe not. But
so we had kind of like 8 or 10 weeks of instructional cycles, and we would send out videos of kind of encouragement and guidance, and give students shout outs. So Pablo and I would make these videos that we'd send to teachers to play in their classrooms. Yeah. So Coach B was a character that, I don't know, somehow came into being. I just put on a baseball cap, sunglasses, and
had a
PE
B
whistle.
It had a letter B from one of our schools.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
That's how it became Coach
B. So it's interesting you bring that up, because that was part of play, and like the role of play in learning can be huge. And if you take yourself seriously all the time and you have these kind of like dire consequences or high stakes testing, that actually can work against learning. So the playful environment that we tried to create, even just in our teacher communication, that was key. So but we didn't only send out videos. We would visit classrooms.
Yes.
We did this classroom tour where we would talk to the students about we were calling it the Passion Agents Conference, which was a name. We had kind of a contest. Students suggested names, and we picked that one. We visited classrooms and talked to them about, we were emailing them based on their passions and their assessment scores. Teachers worked in the after school hours as mentors, and sent them emails and connected with them. But it was we're kind of targeting down to this like individual communication, where like there's one adult reaching out to you through this one message. Hey, are you going to the conference? What's your passion? What are you preparing for the conference? So those are some of the things we had, like celebrate success as part of our instructional model, where, kids, like they get some swag on a Friday, whoever passed the assessment, and there's, the teachers play music and they dance the red carpet or whatever the teacher does. But we went out and supported those efforts to recognize kids, because I think that's one thing we realized in terms of like moving from engagement to empowerment is we realized the power of celebration to kind of move people along, teachers included, from just engaging them in a fun activity to empowering them to do more than they were already doing.
It was an awesome conference. We're not going to complete it. It was just,
It was mind-blowing.
Yeah, it was so great to see the kids' faces and how excited they were, whether they were in a regular presentation room, like we normally go to as teachers to go.
That's what I was thinking. It was like the adult conferences we go to. So it was put on by them, for them.
Mind-blowing.
It's cool.
It was mind-blowing.
It's very cool.
So where do we go from here?
Yeah,
and that was the question. That was basically where we ended the conference, and we had some conversations around, what are next steps for people, and we had a lot of questions to us, and we'd love for you to ask us those questions, whether it be on iTunes, or go onto our YouTube channel, and if you're watching it on YouTube, hey YouTube, if you're watching on YouTube, just give us a comment down below, or give us your ideas on what you're doing to personalize, to individualize, to differentiate learning for students.
Yeah, and I think so we left this presentation with like, where do we go from here? And I think one of the questions I had was, what language are we not yet familiar with that talks about this shift? And I think now I'm actually, having gone through this presentation several times and having had some time and coming back to it, I think we're really looking for a language around shifting from engagement to empowerment. And I think most of my teaching career, it's been largely talking about how do you engage kids, because we know that the standards that we have for them are so important for them. And so what are you doing as the adult to engage them so that they'll listen to the standards? And the shift from engagement to empowerment is an interesting conversation, because when you think of empowerment, you think of somebody taking action in the world.
Absolutely.
And if you think of engagement, it's like they're a passive kind of like observer, and they're just being engaged. Like I go to a movie, I'm engaged, and after I leave it, it's over.
Yeah.
So
and that's
So we're looking for roots towards empowerment.
Roots. I like it. All right, guys, that's gonna wrap up this show.
This it.
The dilemma of systematizing personalized learning.
Yeah.
So look us up on all our socials at Pablo and Wes, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.